Hey guys, thanks for joining us. This is another episode of our podcast that we're doing, the Capture the Moment podcast, with me and my buddy Lamar here, and we're just going to touch base on a lot of different things, just kind of free talk and whatever. So hope you guys enjoy our conversation, chime in, comments and any thoughts on what we're talking about, stuff like that. But keep it light, gaming, life, whatever. So yeah, back to what you were saying, Lamar.
All right, yeah.
We're checking out
And
this.
hello everybody. No, the thing is, no, I was saying I saw you playing a little bit of that Street Fighter Alpha Upper yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Destroyed.
I see what you're saying. I got it. And I noticed it's like some input delay. I noticed, for that and for I guess CBS2 a little. I have a slight input delay, but I'm still enjoying the games, man. I can't fucking deny
The
it.
hard thing
I
to
love
know,
the game.
the hard thing to know from my end is okay. I'm playing on an arcade stick. I'm playing on an Xbox 360 stick. I have
Oh,
Hertz converter, and I'm on a PS5. It's like there's so many things. So, and I don't have the world's best internet. I mean, I have decent, pretty decent. Should be fine for fighting games. But so I've got a few things that are kind of like I don't know if there's some latency in my adapter that's causing
oh
stuff to not
yeah.
come out. It comes out every once in a while. Like I do like an anti-air ducking jab into the level 3, but then four out of 10 times it doesn't come out, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
I peeped how, you was having that issue with Charlie. You would do like jab into super and the shit really wasn't coming out. Then you did it one time. You was like, hey, I had to do it twice for
Mm-hmm.
it to come out, So I'm like, yeah, I get it.
And
And it's like,
again, I'm not the best in that game. I mean, honestly, even when I was pretty decent, I was never the best. I was never really, really good. It was never my focus. I was always more into Marvel, but I
yeah,
did practice a little bit, and my thing I struggle with the most in the game is just matchups and gameplay. And it's like, dude, I was like, these people are jumping in on me and I have no answer for it. And nothing I do hits them. Everything they
yeah,
do hits me. Um, it seems like people's priority on their hits are so good, and
yeah,
everything I put out there gets stuffed or has recovery, and I'm like, man.
yeah. I get it, man. I was watching a video yesterday. What's my man, Rufamonger? He was
Mm,
no, it was Jim Croft. He was talking about how
oh,
busted T-Hawk is in that game. Like not in a good way either. Like he's just his command grab does no damage.
oh,
His regular grab, he has to get close up to you. His normals, like his kicks, they don't even hit you standing. A lot of them, they go over your head. It's like
mm,
they just kind of threw him in there. I don't know if he was going to do a breakdown of every character, but I was like, wow, it's kind of messed up with T-Hawk. But when you look at these compilations, that's one of the drawbacks, to it is like a lot of them are considered broken. Like some of the characters, like that one game that's on here, the one was it Capcom Fighting Evolution,
oh yeah.
and they, I just every time I look at the video, they just completely shit on that game. I still haven't even played it yet. They shit on it so bad.
I mean, there's the only reason to play it. There's two reasons I would say for someone to check it out. Um, if you want to check out a couple of those characters that are from offshoots of games that don't really get a lot of love. Like there's the lion character and the dinosaur character that are from I guess Red Earth or
Red
something.
Earth, yeah,
Now I've
yeah,
never even played that. So for me, if I wanted to check out like okay, let me see what these characters are all about. Oh, okay, cool. But for me to play Ryu, like that sucks. He's like a worse ST Ryu. Urian's nowhere near as good as he is in Third Strike. It's just all these things where it's like these characters, Sakura's way better in either Alpha 3 or CBS 2. So
yeah.
it's just like, why am I playing these watered down versions? Dimitri's super better in
Dark Talker.
yeah, like either part 1 or 2, I believe, probably even
Yeah,
Vampire Savior. So it's just, it's like, what's the point? Like,
yeah,
and the only
yeah.
thing I kind of like is the artwork. Some of the artwork was new. Some of like the backgrounds, even though they were kind of low budget, like they looked like they just took still shots and copy and
Oh
pasted a
yeah,
bunch of them in. But
yeah,
it just there were a couple new locations or a little bit new. Like I think one of the stages maybe was from CVS or something, but it was like a London area or something, and there was
yeah,
a bathhouse area, or I can't remember now. But other than that, I mean, there's no real value in playing that game.
yeah, yeah. I get it. I mean, just to have it on there. It's the same thing with those. What's the shit? Star Gladiator or
Yeah,
Plasma Sword and now rival schools. I like. I actually had that back in the day.
I
And the
wish they would have
Polychrome
put both on there. I wish they would have put Rival Schools and Project Justice
Project
instead of
Justice. Yeah,
just Project Justice. And then
yeah,
and that's where I think the weakness in the collection comes in. I feel like they could have definitely fit one more game on there. It wouldn't have broke
Yeah,
the bank. And to have something like that, have part one on there as well, and then Capcom releases something like one of their execs is like, "Oh, we want our players to be able to keep playing our games forever. Tell us how you want us to be able to, what games that aren't out yet you still want to be able to play, and we'll try to maybe release something else." And I'm just like, I mean, here you're releasing a collection. Why would you release a part two and not a part one? At least like they
right.
had CVS one and two. It would have been stupid to just have like, oh, CVS one on there without CVS two, or vice
Right.
versa. It
And they
just it
put
doesn't
Power
make a lot of
Stone one and two. Yeah, like why would you have both Power Stones? And yeah, if you're gonna do that, you might as well have both versions. Now, I did hear the reason for the whole Star Gladiator shit was, I didn't, I guess in the beginning it was supposed to be a Star Wars game, fighting game, but I guess the shit didn't fall through, and they had to change the name to Star Gladiator. But because Hayato looks so much like Luke, he really doesn't look like Luke. He just got a past a lightsaber, to be honest. But you never know.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons I heard they didn't put it on the collection. But yeah, man, they definitely could have, you know, added some other
Like
sequels.
Star Gladiator and Rival Schools one, and the collection would have been perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't, I mean, to be honest, I always, you know what? I always wished from back in the day. I told my friends this for years. I said, look, as soon as Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition came out, where you could select any version from any of the games, so you could play regular Street Fighter 2 Guile versus Super Turbo Zangief, and they would each
yeah,
have their priorities of what game they were from, and it made it pretty ridiculous. Like Chun Li, her jumping light kick or medium kick in like Champion Edition and Hyper Fighting, it's like it beat everything. I mean,
yeah,
Sagat couldn't even uppercut it. It was so strong. The hitbox was so good on it. And
yeah.
I was wishing they would have thought of doing something like that for Marvel, right? Like come
Oh
out
yeah,
with
yeah.
like a Marvel Anniversary Edition where you could pick Magneto from X-Men for Street Fighter or Magneto from Marvel 2.
Oh
You could
yeah,
pick
yeah.
like
That would be pretty sick.
and see what kind of crazy stuff people could come up with like
Mhm.
maybe it'd be 2-on-2, maybe it'd be 3-on-3, but you'd be able to pick any of these incarnations of the characters from different versus series, and you'd be able to have Wolverine from Marvel Superheroes, or Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter or whatever. If somebody wants War Machine from Marvel 1 and Iron Man from Marvel 2, it's like you could do that, and just not that it would be a game that would maybe be taken super seriously in tournaments, but it would still be fun. The same way, like, nobody really plays Anniversary Edition as a tournament anymore. I think they did like one or two tournaments and they saw how ridiculous it was. And they were like, yeah, this isn't going to work. But
Yeah,
it's still kind of fun just to fool around with. Now, if there was enough to the game that made sense to make it, tournament worthy or tournament caliber, great. Otherwise, hey, at least it'd be a fun kind of what if
yeah,
scenario,
yeah. That'd be fun. Just to fool around, just do some crazy combos with a lot of different characters from different games. Yeah, who knows? I mean, well, that's one reason we have, PC. You know, did you ever check out? I know you got a PC. Did you ever check out that Maximilian project?
Oh, MVCIB.
Yeah.
No, I was going to, and then I just, I was so rusty in MVCI already. I hadn't played it in, a year and a half, 2 years, and because no one I knew had it, no one I knew was playing it. People either were playing different games or just not playing it at all. And I just, and then I lost my PlayStation in that fire.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
finally got an Xbox. I got an Xbox X, not the Series X, but the the
The
Xbox
S.
One X,
Oh,
and,
Xbox. Okay, yeah, yeah.
and that one, and then I got the game again, and I was playing for a little bit, but again, I'd be like doing a search, and it would take 20-30 minutes to maybe get a match, and I was just like,
Oh
this
yeah.
isn't fun. Like I'm just sitting there, and um, this is where I say to some of these gamers, it's like for the gamers out there who are like out of shape and overweight, it's like, dude, you get on these games with like barely a community left and you have that super long matchmaking. It's like, dude, get on the weights, lift
Yeah,
some
right.
weights, do some squats or do something, and we'll
Yeah,
be the most fittest ever, waiting on these
heck yeah.
matches. Shit.
Heck yeah. That's something I know Max was talking about. He's not wrong, and a lot of guys, they echo that same thing where, like, once the fighting games became, like strictly home, games where you can't really go to the arcade and play. They live and die by online, and
Yeah,
like right now, I'm sad to hear it, and because I really think it's a great fucking game. That Fatal Fury City of the Wolves didn't sell for shit. Like
yeah.
it didn't sell hardly nothing, bro.
And
Like even in
they
Japan,
tried
it didn't sell.
gimmicks. They tried gimmicks. They tried uh,
Yeah,
going hard on the
I still don't
advertising
know why they put
stuff.
that fucking
I know.
soccer player in the DJ.
Whatever. I mean, and
Yeah,
look, I get it in theory. You go after something. Soccer is one of the biggest sports in the world. Like professional soccer, football is
yeah,
bigger than the NFL. Like over,
it
if
is.
you
I
talk
mean, I
about the
know.
world, and so they're thinking, oh, if we can even get like 5%, if we can even get 10% of the people that really love soccer that are from 20 to 40 age bracket, and maybe they play fighting games a little bit, and one of their favorite soccer players is on there. Oh, maybe we can get it. That's not going to work. I mean, we might as well go for a Daytona racer or you know, someone's Texas Hold'em player. Oh shit,
Right,
he's gonna go all in. Oh shit,
right.
he's pushing his chips in, and it's like
Oh,
an
I could.
8-hit combo,
I'm
and
about
then
to say, can you imagine that move set?
the stare down across the table, like Ken on the other side, and him,
Yeah,
sunglasses on with no expression, all
yeah.
in, like, oh, getting killed by,
Powerhouse.
yeah. Different supers would be different, oh, Royal Flush. And
Royal flush. You're right.
I don't know, man. I mean,
Oh man,
it,
yeah.
but somebody is kind of out of touch of the ideas. And then Max in that one video was talking about like one of the producers saying like, man, I want to put in like celebrities like LeBron and Michael Jackson and like,
Nah.
all these, and he's like, can we not do that with fighting games? Like,
Right, right.
it's cool
Uh,
that Mortal Kombat kind of their recent niche is to have all these guest characters from like old retro um movies or TV shows,
yeah,
or you have Homelander, or you have, Omni Man, or you have, whatever, Ghostface Killer. You have these kind of iconic characters, but it's
yeah.
not like that's enough to draw in thousands of players.
No,
Like,
it's not.
it's just like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing, I guess. And then
Mm,
then it comes down to like, is the character even good enough to win tournaments? Because
right.
no one's playing them still. Like, I mean,
What character they're not playing?
well, I'm just saying, like all the tournaments I would see of
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
Sonic Fox and whoever else, and these Puerto Rican guys that were whooping on them and beating them, the
Oh
15-year
yeah, I
old,
saw that. Yeah,
whatever. But nobody's using DLC characters. Nobody
yeah.
was winning with Ghostface Killer. Nobody was winning with Omni Man. Like, and that's what
Right,
I'm
right.
saying. Like, okay, they put these characters in and they're cool for a second. The trailer goes viral and people are excited about it, but then
Hmm.
that's it. Like,
Yeah, because it's like they all cater to the casual. A casual motherfucker that likes Scream movies will say, "Oh, Ghostface," and they'll buy the character just for that. They don't care about move sets and frame data.
yeah.
They just, oh, it's Ghostface. He's stabby stabby.
Oh, that's the fatality. Oh, wow. He
Right.
is.
Yeah, so it's and that's the audience that they cater to. Unfortunately, they don't really cater to the hardcore players. Like that's the whole reason that Tekken went through the bullshit it did, and they still recuperating, because they're trying to do something to cater to the casuals, but it was so jacked up, even the casuals really didn't like it, and of course the pro players they shat all on it. A lot of them just walked away from the game, but now they're making a little few changes to try to get people back, but it's like, and I feel bad for them, because it's like we know you want to bring in new players, the casual. That's how y'all make the most money. The percentage of gamers that are really going to be hardcore is probably not even going to be 5% of the people that buy that game. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and that's any fighting game.
But then they were
You know?
talking about on like button check and different ideas that it's like the community can keep it alive if they really want. If there's enough people behind it, to do like a smash where it's like it
Right.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
if Nintendo doesn't care about it anymore. They love it enough that they're willing to go to tournaments, to play in tournaments. And if these games do get to that point, then like, okay, that's sweet that maybe the players can kind of keep it afloat for a few more years,
Yeah.
and keep the scene alive. But then I feel like there's the other thing where NRS a little bit shoots themselves in the foot because they do turnaround so fast. They do,
Yeah, they
okay,
do.
it's Mortal Kombat 10, then 11, then Injustice 2, and then Mortal Kombat 1, and then and it's just like they bounce from game to game so fast, and yet
Yeah.
you have scenes that have stayed strong. Marvel 2, Ultimate Marvel 3, Killer Instinct, KI3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of these games that have had 2, 3 seasons of DLC, or like Marvel 2, just one amazing game and stayed in the limelight for kind of 20 years off and on. I mean,
Yeah.
10 to 15 as a mainstay, kind of died out and then resurged back to being at Evo again. Like
Yeah.
with the collection, and then there was the Dreamcast, and there was the HD version with that you could
Yeah.
use HDMI, and could do the quick preset character select, like re-character select. There would be like super quick, and people were modding backgrounds, and people were having all the modded colors in. And I mean, yeah, that was sweet, but
Yeah.
you're not going to get that when you're replacing the game every year or two. It's
Right.
like you don't let it have enough time to really marinate.
Right. Yeah, that's true. They don't, and yeah, and what's also fucked up is when they bring out the new game, they like completely shut off the older ones. Like you MK11, MKX. It's like
Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think of, instead of replacing the game, they were to like patch, or they were to do like a season 3, 4, 5, where they, and I'm talking about a real patch, like they maybe even change game mechanics. They change, like how Street Fighter sometimes would, or there's a new version of the game. You know how like you'd have like a Street Fighter 5 Super Ultra, something like that,
yeah,
arcade edition. What if they did that instead of just, okay, new game, we give up on this, all the work, all the
yeah,
DLC that you bought, all the time learning these characters and matchups. What if instead they were say, oh, we're gonna release like MK1 version 2, or MK1
yeah,
something, like Ultimate Edition or something, where it's
yeah,
like, okay, now we're expanding, we're gonna update some of the game mechanics, more
yeah.
characters, more, whatever.
Honestly, yeah, I think they should do that because for one, it in the long run, you kind of like saving money because if you dump all of those resources into a new game, who's to say that it won't take off or not? Where if the game is already established and all you're doing is updating it, and you can put a few dollars into it, but you're definitely not putting as much as you would if you were doing a whole new
Let,
game. And
let me
yeah,
give you an example here, because Ultimate Marvel 3, keep in mind, Marvel 3 was already out. They come out with Ultimate Marvel 3, which was an expansion. Originally, it was supposed to be a DLC, but then there was the earthquake, or the huge flood and tsunami over in Japan that messed
oh
up the
yeah,
timing and the companies and the production. So instead, they decided to push it out as a new game for like 1999 or whatever, as a brand new game, incorporating all the old stuff, except not all the costumes, but basically retweaking the game, changing a few things, how the systems worked, some of the balances and whatever. But they also added, like, I think 10 new characters, right? 10 or five
yeah,
from Marvel, five from whatever. But I feel like if they were to do something like that and release it as like, okay, it's a new game, but it incorporates all the stuff from the previous game, and then there's add-ons, so you're paying, like, it's basically a paid DLC that then they can also release DLC for. You say, okay, you're buying, kind of how the same way with like Monster Hunter has Monster Hunter World, and then like a year later, Iceborne comes out.
oh
It was an
yeah,
add-on for the same original game,
hmm
that you still had access to all the content from World, but now it expanded to be able to incorporate new fights, new weapons, new whatever. And
yeah,
so I just don't understand why they don't do something like that, where they
yeah. That
incorporate,
right. That
at
build
least
that
try
build
that once or twice and see, does that pay off more? Because Marvel 3, I don't think would have held an audience for as long as Ultimate Marvel 3 did, if it hadn't been for Ultimate Marvel 3 coming out, expanding the roster,
yeah,
changing the way the X Factor worked, having it's like Marvel 3 was pretty good, but it wasn't as
yeah.
hype as Ultimate Marvel 3.
hmm
And
That's a
yet,
really good question
Ultimate
though.
Marvel
Yeah,
3 stayed in the community for like 10, 15 years, just based on, I mean, Capcom stopped any support like a year after or 2 years after. And it was
mm,
strictly based on the community that held it together, that kept it being at Evo. Because people wanted to see Chris G and Filipino Champ, and
yeah,
all these people doing crazy stuff in the game. And um, so to me, that's worth some investigating, in my opinion.
yeah. It is. Because why haven't they done that? Unless the investors don't look at it as being profitable, which is dumb because like you just gave good examples that they would look at Capcom, and they could see that this can't be profitable, but for some reason they won't do it.
Well,
Yeah,
something
man.
else I wanted to talk about real quick on this second episode of the podcast, I wanted to touch base on real quick, maybe within a quick 5 minute conversation,
Yeah.
our how we met and the good old space station days.
Oh yeah, the
Man,
space
Space
station.
Station Arcade. So that was an arcade for anyone that doesn't know. So we're in Michigan, and it was in Royal Oak on
Yeah.
Woodward Avenue, home of the Dream Cruise, and now that's the
Yeah.
biggest notoriety on
Hmm.
Woodward. But there was this little, mom and pop arcade. And man, I don't know how old I was when I started going there, but I
Let me
probably was,
see.
I want to say like 10, 12.
Yeah, you were about
Um,
11, so about
because I
maybe
was
12.
when I was really starting to go there was I was in junior high, and
Okay.
me and my one friend that was my friend Brad that we had classes together at Jane Addams, and we
Yeah.
both played Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Killer Instinct was one of our that was a new game on the
Oh yeah,
scene,
killer
and
that thing. Yeah.
I mean Killer Instinct brought all this new. It was like a brand new way to look at fighting games. It's like
Yeah.
it kind of was like uh A and B, and that was it. You thought of your Street Fighter and you thought of your Mortal Kombat, and that was it.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
was like, okay, it's either 2D, kind of Street Fighter style, or it's like this live footage looking Mortal Kombat. And KI just totally came out of nowhere and said, "Hey, we got 3D rendered graphics and like these huge these button combo system,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
combo breakers." And I'm telling you, man, just all the back in the day, like it was so much fun back then. And
Oh man, I'm telling you.
met a lot of people up there. And I mean, that was the birth
Yeah.
of like me really getting into. They had X-Men versus Street Fighter. They had the cabinet there and
I'm
started
trying to
playing
think.
that
What
game.
year did you graduate, bro? Because I'm trying to think when I
99.
started. 90, okay, yeah. So by the time I started working there, that was like in '94. Remember, I worked there for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah, I
know,
remember.
you would. That's really when we got cool because you was up there every day.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and I
I,
had a car
I
then.
was there more than you, and you worked there. Like I was like, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I
yeah,
had no life, and me and this other friend of mine, we had very similar stories growing up. Of like,
yeah,
I mean, just our childhood. It's all I wanted to do was play these games, and
yeah,
plus there's the draw of like, um, I was friends with you guys, was friends with you, friends with like Jeremy and Kevin and Rick and
yeah,
some of these other guys that worked there. And like everyone was like 5 to 6, 7, 8 years older than me. They'd be
yeah,
smoking cigs out front,
yeah.
and
I
I'm
was
trying to
smoking
be
then
with
too.
the older kids, or the
Yeah,
older guys. And it's like when you're 15, all you want to do is be older. You want to
yeah.
get into the bar, you want to be able to go where you can't,
Oh yeah,
and they're all of the stuff. So I mean, that was such a cool environment. And then we found out about like the Butterfly and Wizards over on Eight
yeah,
Mile, and
yeah,
it kind of broadened the horizons, and finding out like, oh damn, people hold tournaments. Like
yeah.
Space Station never had a tournament in their
No,
life.
they didn't.
And so and I'm like, damn, like they have tournaments, and they're ridiculous, and like they're so good. And
Did you
um
ever make it to this arcade? Two arcades. One was called the Michigan Fun Center. It was all the way down 8 Mile. Did
yeah,
you ever go
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Yeah, man. I used to love Fun Center.
I passed by and give them the finger on the way to Wizards. But we
But you
basically
didn't
had
like
like
them?
a little bit of rivalry between Wizards
Oh,
and Michigan Fun Center.
okay,
I
okay.
don't think they even had a Marvel 2, but they had like Tekken 3, and they had a couple other games that like some of the guys from Wizards would go there when they were trying to play some other games, or if it was really dead at Wizards, they'd maybe head down and see what was going on at Michigan Fun Center. And then there were two others. There was Roscoe's,
That was the next one I was going to
which
mention. That
I
was off
only
the
went
drive.
to once, because the
Yeah.
Roscoe's guys, they would come to Wizards on like Friday or Saturday night or something, and it was like
Oh, okay.
WWE Invasion. It's like there's six guys coming, and and I just passed a guy with a Storm Shadow mask, and he was giving the suck it to a driver that was passing by, totally
Yeah.
random. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, or like when
Yeah.
us being like kind of thought of as the Wizards guys would come and infiltrate the Butterfly, and it's like, oh shit,
Oh, okay.
Wizards is here, and it's like, yeah, like it was no messing around time,
Oh
the
no, it
glider
wasn't.
coming
Yeah.
off, and people would get in the streets, and people that thought they were the best of the best would get destroyed all of a sudden, and
Yeah.
so it was
I
just
remember
funny. And
seeing you
then
up
there's
there.
one other place, or a couple
Yeah.
other places, where at the malls there was like
Oh
FYE
yeah.
at
Till
West
12.
Lane, and then Ian was one of the guys that went up there, and he was kind of one of the younger guys. He was like, I want to say 2, 3 years younger than me, and
Yeah.
I think, or maybe he was like 1 or 2 years older, but we were kind of close in age. And I think he worked over at one of the the FYEs. There was another mall that had like an arcade in it, and it went out of business. But some of the malls would have like these little arcades where they'd have,
Yeah.
15, 20 games, and just enough to, and if they had the right games, it's like it didn't matter where it is.
Right.
Shoot, I ran into a tabletop Marvel 2 at Wayne State one
Huh.
time. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm talking about the actual flat top where
Oh, I
it's
remember
like,
those.
and I was
Marvel
like, what
2?
the hell? Like, how do
That's
you,
crazy.
yeah, I was like, how the hell, it's like, because there's one screen, and I was like, how are you going to play like this and the angle of the buttons? And it was crazy. But yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean, but the arcade days, man, it was such a different atmosphere, and
it
it
was.
led to like, people having in-person rivalries. When I was watching a little bit of a stream yesterday, and it was CVS2 on the collection, and Justin Wong and James Chen were doing commentary for it. This was an online tournament, but they're talking
Oh,
about,
okay.
back in the arcade days and stuff, and yeah, having like rivalries. We weren't, to the extreme of like West Coast and East Coast rivalries, but even Michigan, we had the Flint
Oh, yeah.
guys that would come from Flint, Dre, and a couple of Nate and a couple of those guys would
Yeah.
come, and like I think there was like 3 or 4 of them that would come from Flint. And and the one guy, they'd have teams that we didn't play. Like the one guy played Team Big Bodies, like
Oh,
Blackheart, Juggernaut, and Hulk or something. And
okay.
it would throw us off guard because we're like, damn, who plays this team? And he'd
Right,
have,
right.
everyone had a couple gimmicks with their team. If you play nothing but that team, you've got setups. You've
Yep.
got little mix-ups, and it was,
Hmm.
and just having that exposure to new ideas, new teams. And that's why when we started traveling and going out of town to like going to Chicago, to Midwest Championships, going to Toronto, all that different
Yeah.
stuff, it made such a difference because all of a sudden now we're bringing back. I mean, at that time there was no
College.
internet. Yeah, there was no internet. There was just a little bit of like you could see maybe a VHS tape or whatever, and so now we were going to these tournaments, and we were coming back with like Strider Doom and Magneto Storm Psylocke and like
Yeah.
Cable doing like 5 Hyper Viper beams and all this stuff, different
Mm.
tech and different games, whether it was Third Strike or Alpha 3 or Marvel 2 or Marvel 1. I mean, you're seeing people with golden Gold War Machine and Double War Machine doing chipping out someone with War Destroyers or Orange Hulk and different things. That it was crazy, and getting that much exposure from a scene, it was like more than you could even handle. It was just so much. And the thing that I
Yeah.
would want to do most is get back and start practicing. And people were shitting on me for playing Strider Doom and playing Spiral and playing Magneto
Right.
and
I
playing
mean, but
Cable,
why?
because Wizards had this backwards ass mentality that like stuff is cheap. Like if you would chip someone
Oh,
out, oh, you're cheap. You got to chip me to win. And
oh,
it kind of held the area back, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
even your some of the most notariable people from that area. So you got like VDO, who still is a prominent member in the Marvel space. He's going
yeah,
to tournaments. He'll get top 8 or he'll get top 16, and he's got a lot of notoriety. His team, a lot of props for him playing that team and doing so well with it.
yeah.
But he was like all the others. I mean, he had this like honor code that like, oh, I don't want to beat you with, chipping you out. And he would lose matches because of it. And I'm
Wow.
like, dude, I'm playing to win, and I'm doing
Yeah.
what I'm learning what I need to do to win. And sure enough, I won the bulk of the tournaments at Wizards. Well, it was really big while I was at my height. I mean, I won, I think 3, I want to say like 2 or 3 at least. And I won a couple in some other games, but that was
Yeah.
the thing. And like some people were on my side of like, oh yeah, you should be doing what it takes to win. And then
Yeah.
other people would be like talking mad shit and like, oh, you're trash. You can't win without, you got to guard break
Man,
me and
shit.
you got to shoot me with 3 beams. And,
You
you
know, it would
know,
have been beautiful if you could have just around that time, if you could have through some miracle, if you would have been able to go to New York and you would have just happened to run into a Justin Wong.
yeah, I played Justin at
Yeah.
Midwest. I played,
Okay,
not in the
did you?
tournament, but in
Oh,
casual.
okay.
So we
Because
would
that's
go
how he
there.
plays, man.
Oh yeah, and that's what I took it from. I would
Yeah.
watch Valle, John Choi, Justin Wong, Ricky Ortiz, all these players that had different teams, your combo fiend and
Yeah.
these players that had different techniques, different styles, but they all had one thing in common. They were playing to win. When money's on the line, you're not going to
man.
take it easy on someone. You're
Hell
not going
no.
to, their button went out. Like, well, sorry, I mean,
Right.
we've seen it in somebody hits the start button accidentally and the person will take the match.
Oh yeah.
Not all the time. It depends on the situation. But if it was like you were in the middle of a game breaking combo, you were in the middle of a Magneto Infinite, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, that was probably game. Or you're in
Yeah.
the middle of a second Hyper Viper beam and it goes bing, and then, and it makes you miss your next one. That's
Oh yeah.
game. So it's
And
like,
let's not forget about Ultimate 3, that fucking Morgan shit, which
oh,
Chris G used to
yeah,
do all the time. Oh,
yeah.
you just have to figure it out. I would
Well,
watch people just lose to that. And I'm like, damn, you just got
I
to figure
wanted
it
to
out.
I want to mention on the stream though before we end it though.
Yeah.
When we first started hanging out, you invited me over to your place. We would chill, and oh my god, dude! I mean, the watching DBZ on VHS,
Oh
the
yeah,
exposure to
yeah.
that, the Crazy Taxi playing Dreamcast, and like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it was so much fun back in the day, and that was the thing. Like, friendship back then, when it stemmed from gaming, it
Yeah.
really expanded beyond. It's like, oh shit, we can play all these kind of games, or like this game's sick, and like, getting
Yep.
exposure to something you didn't know,
Oh
like
man.
me
That was
showing you DBZ and the
yeah.
imported Japanese episodes on tape that I was buying at Comic Cons because you couldn't find it anywhere else,
Right,
and
right.
or the
I was
anime
going, you ever hear
stores.
of Die Hard? You ever hear of Die Hard from California? I used to I followed
Uh
this guy called Happy Console Gamer. He older than us, and he's a gamer
huh.
from Canada. And the reason I subscribed to him is because he remembered Game Fan. It was a magazine called Game Fan, and in the back of Game Fan, even before they were in EGM magazines, it was a company called Die Hard, and Die Hard. I used to get all of my when I had a Neo Geo, I bought a couple of Neo Geo games from them. I had a Japanese PlayStation. I bought all those games like Project Justice, all that shit. Right before school, I had the Japanese version of those games. I
Yeah.
had all the fucking manga like the Ninja Scroll, Akira, Wicked City. I bought all of that from them. That was my manga. I would say manga, but my what we used to call it back then, Japanimation. That was
Yeah.
my Japanimation and import game plug back in the day. And they took cash on delivery. I mean, man, I had so much stuff from them. But yeah, man, it's like when we first met, and like I said, I showed you my little VHS Dragon Ball. I really thought I was doing something until I went over to your house and you just unveiled the fucking collection. That man, it took me. I think you lent me movies over the course of a year. It took me like damn near a year to watch all of that stuff because I would watch. You would give me like 3 movies at a time. And I think we started with what the Cell Saga because you said you didn't have all of the Frieza Saga.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with Cell and into Boo, and then the movies. You let me watch the movies. All 13 of them, I think. And in the beginning, the 13. I don't know how many are they at now. 19.
I haven't even kept track,
Yeah,
honestly.
but the
But they
original
told me like
13
4 or
movies.
5 after the original
Yeah,
13.
yeah. But you put me up on all of that. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I fell in love with Dragon Ball Z. I thought it was cool, but that made me fall in love with it. And not only me, but I would have other people come watch it. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and they all fell in love with it. Like, what the hell is this?
Oh man.
Yeah, man. But yeah, man. So them was good
Well,
times, man. I didn't
yeah,
really get to
for
go to
real.
Wizards that much, but I definitely, like I said, Space Station, Michigan Fun Center, and Butterfly. Yeah.
Well, we can. So I got to cut it short here. I'm about to have to get in line at work here, and I got to
Okay,
unload
that's
some
cool.
things. But yeah, man, that's definitely. We'll touch base more on that, and I want to get into more of some of our thoughts of like Dragon Ball Z and Super and stuff over
Oh,
the
okay.
last few years of like what our thoughts are on it and where we think it's going to go. I mean, again, I just hope they ever start the show again. I keep hearing stuff about Super, and it's like year after year, and nothing still.
Right.
Like
And they
I
got
don't know,
manga is so far ahead
it's
now.
so far ahead. I don't know if they can ever catch up at this point, but
Yeah.
um, anyway, well, I appreciate taking the time on the
Oh,
podcast,
definitely.
man, and
No problem.
I'll put this up, and hopefully people enjoy it, and we'll keep doing it. Just talking
Oh, yeah.
about stuff we enjoy, and little snippets of
That's what it's all
gaming, and
about. Yeah.
yes, sir. All
All
right,
right,
man.
buddy.
I'll catch you
Yep.
later.
All right.